This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Habayim. We're continuing in the Sefer Orchos Chaim of the Rosh. Before we begin, I want to point out, first of all, the shiurim are dedicated by the Saka family. And I want to point out that the name Orchos Chaim was not the name of the Sefer that was given by the Rosh himself. It was originally called Hanhagas HaRosh. Actually, interestingly, I just found today, I have another commentary on the Orchos Chaim that was written by none other than Reb Chaim Kanievsky. And Reb Chaim says that the reason he wrote this commentary, the name of the commentary is Hasam Orchosav. The Gemara Moed Katan says on Daf Hey on Rabbi Shuban Levi, anyone who pays attention to their path in Olam Hazeh will be Zoiche and see salvation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore he named this commentary Hasam Orchosav. But because the Rosh says many very short statements, we don't know where in Chazal the Rosh derived these statements from, therefore Reb Chaim Kanievsky shows the makar of each statement of the Rosh in Chazal. Now, after Chanifus, the Rosh continues, V'chein min ha-sheker v'ha-kazav. One needs to distance from falsehood and kazav, falsehood. What's the difference between sheker and kazav? So before we determine that, let's first try to establish the connection. What's the connection between Chanifus and Gaiva and Sheker? Yesterday we pointed out from Rav Goldberg that Sheker is also one of those things that is a toyeva of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Like it says in Mishlei, Toyavas Hashem Sifsei Shaker. And as we mentioned yesterday, anything which is a toyeva, the person is, so to speak, given over into the hands of the Yetzer Hara. So we have Gaiva, we have Chanifus, and we have Sheker. These are all things which are a toyeva of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Interestingly, Rav Menashe Klein wrote a commentary on the Orchos Chaim of the Rosh, and he says the connection between Sheker and Chanifus is obvious. They're basically partners. Both are really hurting their friend. The only thing is, when you lie, that is only known to the one who's lying, and when you are mechanef, so to speak, the lie is inserted into the one who you are flattering. But they're both a form of falsehood. And again, Rav Goldberg says they're both a toyeva of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, interestingly, there's something that is even more important about being careful from sheker in our generation and in our times more than any other time. The Smag, in Mitzvah Saseh Ayin Daled, he talks about the importance of emes, especially in the generation of Ikvasad the Mashiach. The Smag says that he already darshaned to the Golos, that nowadays that our Golos has lasted so long, it is incumbent upon us to be even more careful in the inyan of Sheker. And that is because the Pasuk says in Sefania, She'eris Yisrael, the remnant of Israel, Lo Ya'aseh Avla, they don't do any iniquity, V'lo Yidabru Chazav, they don't speak any falsehood, V'lo Yimtza B'fiyam Lashon Tarmis, there's no deceit in their mouth. So if we're being called She'eris Yisrael, what it's saying is, who wants to be Zoicha to Mashiach? What is it going to take to be Zoicha to Mashiach? That is only those who are honest and straightforward and transparent in their speech, only they will be Zoicha to Mashiach. Because when Mashiach comes and HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes to save us, the Goyim will say, you know what? Hashem did the right thing. That for redeeming Klal Yisrael, because they're honest people and they only speak the truth. But if we act with deceit and falsehood, they're going to challenge HaKadosh Baruch Hu what right He has to redeem us. So those who are the She'eris Yisrael, we have to be extra careful to be honest in order to merit the Mashiach. In other words, you want to be around for Mashiach, you want to be among those who will greet the Mashiach. This is the key, this is the important midah. Now, what is the difference between sheker and chazav? Reb Chaim Kanievsky quotes the Malbim in Yeshaya Parak Chav Ches Pasuk Tezvav, that sheker is something that you could clarify immediately. You could fact check sheker immediately, and it will be found to be false. But chazav, one cannot detect the falsehood in chazav until later on. So sheker is something which is false at the get-go. It's apparent that it's false in the beginning, as opposed to chazav, where you don't find out about it until the end. The Gra in Mishlei, on Parak Yud Beis, Pasuk Chav Beis, Rav Goldberg quotes, says there's two kinds of sheker. There's sheker and there's kazav. Sheker is something that was false to begin with. You ask somebody, you want to come to the shir? They say, sure. They don't want to come to the shir. They had no intention of coming to the shir. They lied to begin with. Kazav is where a person originally intended to go to the shir, but then never made good on their word. So that's chazav. So sheker is where somebody lies, where somebody says something with the intention of not fulfilling it from the get-go, and kazav is where originally the person had in mind to fulfill what they were going to, what they pledged to do, but ultimately they backed out of it and they were not good on their word. The Rosh continues, V'chein min haletzanos. One needs to be careful, likewise, about scoffing, about being too light-headed, mockery. The Gemara in Sotah Daf Mem Beis counts the leitzim among those who are not mekabel the pnei shchina. One of the four groups that are not mekabel the pnei shchina are the leitzim. And the Mesillas Yesharim tells us about the severity of leitzanos. He says, look at the great severity of leitzanos. You know what it's like? It's like a shield that is smeared with oil, that it will cause to slip off. Or any arrow that you throw at it, any arrow thrown at that shield will just slip off. So too, the midah of leitzanos. They could hear musar, they could hear rebuke, they could hear correction, and it does not penetrate their heart, it does not enter their minds. They could see inspiring things, they could see frightening things, and it doesn't make any impact because they're so lightheaded, and they make a mockery, and they undermine the importance of everything, that nothing really makes a roishim on them. Nothing makes an impression on them. That is the danger of leitzanos, one of the four categories that is not mekabel the pnei ashchina. Now, again, we mentioned yesterday that these things we don't have to be as careful as gaiva. Gaiva, you need to go away betachlis harichok. But these other bad character traits, chanifos, sheker, chazav, leitzanos, we need to distance, but not betachlis harichuk. It's just they're all similar in the sense that they are all what is considered moikshe maves, the pitfalls of death. Okay, Rabbi Sai, we'll hold it over here. Bezos Hashem, we'll see everybody tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Thank you for joining. Everybody should be matzliach, bracha v'hatzlacha.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.